Welcome to my channel, Worldwise. This is gonna blow your mind. The year was 1933. The world was still reeling from the Great Depression, and the spirit of adventure seemed a distant memory for most. But for one man, the impossible was a challenge worth chasing. Maurice Wilson had a mission, an audacious dream to reach the summit of Mount Everest alone, with no support team and no modern equipment. He flew solo in a tiny biplane, Everest, battling fierce winds and relentless heat over the Middle East. The desert stretched endlessly beneath him, unforgiving and vast. Every drop of fuel was precious, every mile a risk. The margin for error was razor thin, and the consequences of a mistake could be fatal. He faced the threat of arrest, the terror of running out of fuel, and the vast emptiness below. Each checkpoint was a gamble, each border crossing a test of nerve, but turning back was never an option. Wilson's resolve only hardened with every obstacle. The Persian Gulf loomed, a vast, uncertain expanse. Crossing it meant leaving all safety behind. If his engine failed, there would be no rescue. The sea and sand offered no mercy, only silence. He navigated by basic maps, sometimes just instinct, flying low and hugging the coast. The world below was both his guide and his adversary. Each landmark was a victory. Every oasis or settlement glimpsed from above was a lifeline, a sign he was still on course. Each mile a testament to his grit. Fatigue gnawed at him, but he pressed on, driven by something unbreakable. Forced landings, dodging officials, and a plane not built for such a journey, none of it stopped him. Every setback was met with stubborn persistence. Wilson believed faith would guide and protect him, even when lost and alone. He clung to hope, trusting in something greater than himself. His eyes were fixed on Everest, a distant, icy giant waiting. The mountain was both his destination and his destiny. This was raw adventure, survival, and obsession. Every moment in the air was a battle against fear and doubt. He'd already faced incredible dangers, but Everest was still ahead. The greatest challenge was yet to come. Every challenge only fueled his determination. The more impossible it seemed, the more he wanted it. Arrest would mean failure, but he pressed on. The risk of capture was a shadow that followed him everywhere. He was driven by something deeper than reason. His journey was as much about proving himself as reaching the summit. The world called it madness. Wilson called it destiny. He was undeterred by ridicule or disbelief. Alone in the sky, he chased a dream no one else dared. Everest was his beacon, calling him onward through every hardship. The journey was his crucible. The mountain waited, silent and immense, for the man bold enough to try. Maurice Wilson was born in Yorkshire, England, in a time when the world was on the brink of dramatic change. Yorkshire was a land of tough, resilient people, men and women shaped by hard work and harsh weather. The Great War changed everything, shattering old certainties and forging new realities. Wilson fought in the trenches, endured unspeakable horrors, and earned the Military Cross for acts of extraordinary bravery. But heroism came at a price. His left arm was shattered, and his mind left deeply scarred by trauma. He never fully recovered, physically or emotionally, haunted by memories that refused to fade. The war left him restless, determined and stubborn, unable to settle into ordinary life. He carried the weight of what he'd seen and done, a burden that shaped every day that followed. Survival became his instinct, but finding peace proved far more difficult than surviving the war itself. The trenches taught him about human limits and how to push beyond them, no matter the pain. He learned to face fear, to act in spite of it, and to keep moving forward when others could not. This iron will became his trademark, and perhaps in time, his undoing. The war forged him, but it also left him searching for meaning, for a purpose beyond survival. He was a survivor, but not at peace, always longing for something more. The mountains would test him in ways war never did, offering a new kind of challenge. He needed a new battle, a new summit to conquer, something to give his life direction. The scars of war shaped his destiny, driving him toward the impossible. Wilson was ready for any challenge, or so he thought, his resolve unbroken. The world saw a broken man, but inside he was burning with determination. He saw a chance for redemption. Everest became his answer, his obsession. The mountain would be his final test, the ultimate measure of his spirit. He was determined to prove himself, no matter the cost, no matter the risk. The soldier's scars ran deep, etched into his body and soul. Everest would reveal just how deep and whether they could ever truly heal. After the war, the world seemed to move on, but for Wilson, everything had changed. Wilson returned to a world he no longer recognized. The familiar streets felt foreign, and the noise of daily life only deepened his sense of isolation. The adrenaline was gone, replaced by emptiness. The purpose that had driven him through chaos was now a distant memory. He tried business after business, but each failed, deepening his frustration. Every setback chipped away at his confidence. Financial ruin followed. He felt lost, searching for purpose. The weight of disappointment grew heavier with each passing day. He needed something to fight for, a new mountain. Then, he discovered fasting, a discipline that promised clarity and strength. He claimed it healed his wounds and gave him control. Through fasting he found a sense of mastery over his own body and mind. Fasting, combined with fervent faith, became his new strength. Prayer became his anchor, grounding him in hope. He believed prayer and belief could achieve anything. Faith, he thought, could move mountains, perhaps even the greatest one of all. This became his compass, his power. He felt reborn, invincible, as if nothing could stand in his way. The broken soldier was gone. In his place stood a man convinced of destiny. He was no longer defined by his failures. He was ready for the impossible. The world, once overwhelming, now seemed full of possibility. An idea began to form, a colossal challenge, Everest. The very name sent a thrill through his soul. The mountain called to him, promising redemption and a chance to prove himself once more. He believed he'd unlocked a secret to overcoming any challenge. His mind was set, his resolve unbreakable. His failures fueled his obsession. Each defeat became a lesson, each setback a stepping stone. He needed to prove himself, to the world, and to himself. The urge to rise above his past was irresistible. Everest became more than a mountain. It was his salvation. It was the answer to every question that haunted him. The search for meaning had found its summit. He was no longer running from his past but racing toward his future. Wilson was ready to answer the call. Every step forward was a step toward redemption. The impossible was now his goal. Everest awaited, and Wilson would not turn back. With faith and fasting as his armor, Wilson set his sights on Everest. He had no mountaineering experience, none. He'd never climbed a real mountain, knew nothing of ropes or altitude sickness. To most, his plan was madness. But Wilson believed faith was all he needed. He dismissed oxygen, scoffed at guides, and planned to go alone. Rejected by official expeditions, he decided to beat them to the summit. His ideas grew wilder, parachuting, then flying to Everest. He would buy a plane, learn to fly, and crash land high on the mountain. From there, he'd climb to the top. It was desperate, dangerous, and utterly sincere. For Wilson, it was destiny. The world doubted him. He only grew more determined. Everest was his obsession. He would do it his way or not at all. The mountain was waiting, so was his fate. Wilson found a second-hand Gypsy Moth biplane and named it Ever Wren. He had to learn to fly, fast. Impatient and overconfident, he struggled, but his determination never wavered. He painted the plane silver, prepared for the journey, and ignored all warnings. In May 1933, he took off from England, defying authorities. His route was ambitious, across Europe, the Mediterranean, North Africa, and the Middle East. Challenges came quickly. Bad weather, navigation errors, mechanical failures. The heat was brutal, landing strips scarce, sandstorms frequent. He got lost, made emergency landings, and battled exhaustion. Each day was a test of willpower. Every leg of the journey was a triumph over reality. He pushed himself and his fragile plane to the limit, all for a dream born of desperation and faith. The world watched in disbelief. Wilson pressed on, undeterred. Everest was his destination. Wilson's flight soon hit a wall of official resistance. Forbidden to fly over Nepal and Tibet, he lacked permits and clearance. Authorities saw him as a rogue, a diplomatic headache. Orders for his arrest followed him east. In Cairo, he was grounded, urged to abandon his quest. But Wilson was relentless, charming, evasive, and stubborn. He feigned illness, talked his way out, and kept moving. Across Persia, he was detained, questioned, and his plane inspected. The pressure was immense, but he saw obstacles as tests of faith. Eventually in India, his plane was confiscated. The dream of crash landing on Everest was over. For most, this would be the end, not for Wilson. He adapted, changed strategy, and pressed on. Everest was still calling. With his plane gone, Wilson needed a new plan. Everest lay in forbidden Tibet, so he decided to sneak in disguised as a Buddhist monk. In Darjeeling, he hired Sherpas, bought local clothes, and let his beard grow. He practiced blending in, determined to reach the mountain. Fasting and prayer remained his regimen. He believed faith would give him strength for the journey and the climb. After weeks of preparation, he set off under cover of darkness. The trek was grueling: dense forests, high passes, cold nights, little food. Weakened by fasting, he struggled, but his spirit stayed strong. He avoided patrols, endured hardship, and finally crossed into Tibet. Everest was now within reach. The final approach had begun. Wilson was closer than ever to his impossible dream. In Tibet, Wilson reached Rongbuk Monastery at Everest's foot. The mountain was more daunting than he'd imagined, an immense wall of ice and rock. With minimal gear and no experience, he made several attempts to climb. He battled freezing winds, deep snow, and exhaustion. His Sherpas urged him to turn back, but he pressed on, driven by faith. He suffered snow blindness, fell into crevasses, and got lost. Each attempt ended in retreat, but he always tried again. His body failed, but his spirit refused to yield. Alone, he made one final, desperate push. He vanished into the upper mountain, never to return. A year later, his frozen body was found near his tent. His diary revealed unwavering belief and tragic determination. Wilson died chasing an impossible dream. His story is a lesson in endurance, obsession, and the thin line between grit and delusion. He never gave up, even when hope was lost. Everest claimed him, but his legend endures. Some mountains perhaps are best admired from afar. Maurice Wilson's legacy is etched in ice. My next video is out now. Watch it.